The first round tore into Stone's stern. Alarms, smoke, 7 injured, and a cutter fighting to stay alive in international waters. But amid the chaos, one thing stayed up: comms. Stone's team held a tactical data link, pushing the picture to higher command as fires were contained and engines coughed back. That sliver of connectivity became the lifeline. Minutes later, Gravely and Porter stopped running and started hunting. Then came harpoons. Seconds of flight, 2 Venezuelan ships sinking, the third surrendering. Want the second by second of how momentum flipped so fast? That's what we're about to map. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. They went out that morning expecting packages of cocaine tucked under tarps and a few go-fasts that would jump the wake, not a naval gun spitting steel. Stone's profile was law enforcement first. Boardings, evidence photos, chain of custody, and standard rules of engagement that favored warnings, hails, and disabled engine shots when smugglers refused to stop. The cutter's routine included helicopter overflight, small boat launches, and radar tracks of small surface contacts threading normal shipping lanes. The crew prepped for interdiction, not for a gun line bracketing their stern. A national security cutter can flex roles, but the mindset on that watch bill was narcotics interdiction, not fleet action. At 14:18, a 76mm round slammed into the stern and threw the deck into chaos. 7 were hurt by shrapnel and blast, fires caught in aft spaces, and power flickered as load centers tripped. The threat wasn't only the gun line either. Small craft closed as if to probe the gap for a boarding while the gun team repositioned. Anyone who's stood a DC locker knows how fast smoke eats a corridor. The first seconds felt like a fight against time and hull, with a likely second volley inbound. Damage forward was light, but aft looked half-bitten and unstable. General quarters sounded and the ship snapped into a DC rhythm the Coast Guard drills for weekly. They drew fire boundaries, shut fire mains to isolate breaks, and set shoring against heat-sagging bulkheads. Inside the engineering spaces, they counter-flooded to correct the list and protected intakes from debris. Electricians walked the panels, rebalancing loads to keep propulsion and steering alive even with scorched cabling and tripped breakers. Ventilation zones were secured and boundary cooling started to prevent flashover. The crew moved through smoke with portable radios, passing status updates in short, crisp bursts. Communications took a punch. Antennas aft bent or burned, and primary circuits went dirty. But they weren't blind or mute. Secondary paths stayed up, and a degraded voice circuit carried short calls while the tactical data link continued moving tracks and status upstream. It wasn't pretty. Latency, dropouts, reduced bandwidth, but enough to tell command that Stone was engaged and still maneuvering. On the bridge, the con did the only thing that made sense: keep the bow toward the threat arcs and narrow the profile. They used small rudder commands to hold an angle that complicated another waterline shot. Down in the operations center, the team built and maintained the surface picture, tagged hostile hulls, and worked Mayday broadcast procedures without stepping on their own voice nets. Every second, they balanced sensor control and emissions with the need to stay connected. Those training cycles mattered. Coast Guard casualty control is built on fast reconfiguration, and Stone leaned into it. Boundary cooling kept the heat from walking forward. Re-energizing critical buses brought back parts of the comms suite. Portable radios bridged dead spaces when fixed lines failed. The routine drill of hose handling, vari-nozzle patterns, and shoring angles turned into muscle memory that saved compartments and bought more minutes of propulsion. What Stone could not do was win a gun duel. The 57mm and the small mounts could harass and force caution, but they wouldn't outrange a 76 or stop a coordinated salvo. The cutter's mission set meant buying time, staying afloat, and transmitting. And that's exactly what happened. The Mayday went out. The link kept the contact picture alive. A thin stream of data told higher that a national security cutter was under coordinated attack. That was enough to flip the approach nearby. The Navy didn't need long narratives or perfect networks. They needed a live track, a friendly's position, and hostile intent confirmed. With Stone holding the line and still talking, the destroyers shifted out of pursuit mode and began building a kill chain fast. Gravely and Porter were already moving fast on a counter-narcotics sweep, riding escort for the task group with their sensors lit and a pursuit tempo set. The watch teams treated every contact as a smuggler until Stone's updates cut through the net and forced a different read. The air search arrays and surface radars held a clean picture. ESM sniffed out emitters, and both bridges had eyes on the weather and sea state for low-altitude shots. The mindset changed the instant the distress and link data matched a hostile surface action. The window for saving Stone was shrinking. Rules of engagement pivoted from law enforcement support to defense of a friendly unit under fire. That meant positive identification of Venezuelan hulls, constant deconfliction with Stone's track, and a cleared corridor for anything sea skimming. Combat information centers on both destroyers ran parallel checklists. Friendlies fenced, no fly arcs scrubbed, firing bearings safe relative to Stone's heading. Fire control asked for final confirmations while operators trimmed emissions to keep the geometry clean. Every second mattered because a second volley could finish the cutter. The kill chain built almost at once. Stone's degraded link still pushed contact IDs, bearing lines, and ownership status to the network. CIC crews on the destroyers correlated those tracks with their radar plots and ESM fingerprints, cross-checking course, speed, and behavior with the hostile report. Target quality checks cleared quickly. Range within envelope, angles acceptable, no civilian traffic masking the line of fire. Weaponeering settled on Harpoon. The profile matched the problem and the clock. Crew-served guns or 5-inch would have meant closing the distance. The risk to Stone was too high. Harpoon made sense for 4 reasons. It kept the shooters well outside Venezuelan gun range. The missiles ride the wave tops on approach, hiding behind the horizon until the last moments. A pair per target stacked the odds against small combatants with thin skins and minimal hard-kill defenses. And the geometry let flight paths avoid Stone by wide margins while still driving into the enemy's beams. Subsonic didn't matter. Detection would come too late for ships without layered defenses. At 14:32, the first canister kicked and the booster flared. 3 more followed in close rhythm. Launch bearings offset to box the targets. Then each missile bent down to sea-skimming altitude and ran the deck, masked by sea clutter and curvature. CIC compressed time on target so the pair on the lead hull would arrive seconds apart, with the second salvo lagging only long enough to confirm track integrity. Flight paths threaded well clear of Stone's cone, then curved back toward the Venezuelan beams at strike angles that promised flooding and power loss. The Venezuelan side didn't see it in time. Their counter-detection was weak, and point defense sat cold or misaligned. The first hit took the lead offshore patrol vessel on the port side under the forward superstructure, opening steel and driving fire through the compartments. The second found the next ship near the engine spaces. The internal blast killed propulsion and lit fuel lines. Command coherence evaporated on their net. One hull tried to swing its bow to unmask a gun, then died on the turn. Another throttled down to a stop. Gravely and Porter kept radar fences up while launch crews reloaded procedures and bridge teams called safe water bearings. Stone's track stayed clear of the lanes. With 2 hulls sinking and 1 commander signaling surrender, the destroyers pushed small boats for rescue and captured the surface picture. No new threats, no missiles inbound, no aircraft. The same thin stream of data that kept Stone talking had become the backbone for target-quality shots that ended the fight in well under 2 minutes. The surface went quiet fast, but the ROE shifts, and the political fallout would not move at Harpoon speed. And that's where the story turns next. What do you want unpacked next? ROE thresholds, identification standards, or how surrender signals get validated under fire? Tell me the questions you want answered next, and we'll run them down. When patrol work morphs into a sea fight that fast, what in the Caribbean playbook needs a rewrite?